My name is Hamish Maxwell Stewart. I normally work at the University of Tasmania in Australia, but this year I'm the Keith Cameron Chair of Australian History at University College Dublin. The Keith Cameron Chair is a position based in history and archives, which primarily promotes the teaching of Australian history to Irish students. And so I teach two courses, a survey course in Australian history, which is very popular. So I'll teach that to 120 students during my time here. And I also am responsible for a more specialised course, in this case on my particular field of research, convict transportation to Australia. And that is a course which encourages students to explore the detail that you get in prison and convict records. The Keith Cameron Chair has a very, very interesting history. It was originally endowed in 1985 through funds that were donated to UCD by the family of Tony O'Reilly and also the Commonwealth Government of Australia. Keith Cameron was a mining magnate who had interests in Irish history as well as mining. In 2006, the chair was re-endowed by the Commonwealth Government, and it's been going from strength to strength ever since. And in fact, I'm the 11th Keith Cameron Chair. One of many wonderful surprises that I've had this year was delving into the UCD library collection. As I was putting together my courses, I thought that it was very, very likely that there would be many key books that I wouldn't find. In fact, I found that UCD has a superb collection. One of the reasons for this is that the Australian Embassy in Dublin has donated a considerable amount of money over the years to buy books. These are recommended each year by the Keith Cameron Chair. And since the interests of the Keith Cameron Chair vary from year to year, the collection is extraordinarily wide-ranging. So it now includes hundreds of works on Australian history, but a great deal of material which delves into Australian politics, environmental issues, sociological issues as well, and many, many works which attempt to put Australia's past into a wider context. It really is a very, very impressive collection. One of the huge surprises was to find that UCD Library has a complete set of Hansard from the House of Representatives in Canberra. These have been, again, donated by the Commonwealth Government of Australia. Now, I find this a particularly important resource because I'm in a library which also has access to British and Irish parliamentary papers as well. So if you like, you can see Australia's history in a much, much wider colonial context. The UCD Library also has other surprises, so that there's a complete run of historical records of Australia, Series 1 and 3, and these were produced in the early 20th century by the Commonwealth Government of Australia. They're a really rare resource. Not every library in Australia has a set. And there were other books that very much surprised me to find here. So, for example, Ian Brand's book on the probation system, published in Hobart by Blubberhead Press. Very few Australian universities have that. However, somebody in the past has decided it's important for UCD to put it into their collection. Why? Because 10,000 Irish convicts went through the Tasmanian probation system. So a book which is important for courses that I teach. Didn't expect to find here, but there it is. You also have quite important collections of Australian material in special collections. There's a very good reason for this. Most books published about Australia in the 19th century, and particularly in the first half of the 19th century, were published in Britain and Ireland and not Australia. So you don't actually find them in Australian library collections. And it's very common for Australian colonial historians to have to go to Britain and Ireland to actually access this material. UCD Library has books on emigration to South Australia, to Canada. It actually has a book on prison discipline written by James Ross in 1833. I think one of the nice things about the collection is it improves every year, and that isn't something that we should take for granted in these days of tight funds. It's also now a collection which stretches back to the 1970s, when there was first an interest in Australian studies at UCD. It's a huge resource, and I think that it's something which will power the Keith Cameron Chair on into the future.